Right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bernard. Uh, so I'll be discussing international trade and finance with you all for the next more than a couple of sessions for about 3 to 4 months. Uh, no, it's a 6 month course, I think, yes. And we have what 55 to 60 hours of learning. And only thing, the one appeal that I would make for every student in the first session itself is try to be regular as far as possible. And and also usually give the handouts beforehand, that is couple of days before the session. Just go through that and no need of search or any kind of no need of doing an anatomy on that. But then go through the notes, just plainly read and come when you're coming for the session. And the outlining of the course I may have given on the lecture schedule. So just go through that and see. Not that I'm going to do in a numerical order, but then most of the core area that I may have jotted in there. So we'll start the session today. There are about 25 people have logged in, and I hope that everybody, if you all have muted your audios in there. And if there's anything to be clarified or any kind of a thing that you need to ask, just to make a chat, or you can come online. Right. So, international trade your subject is international trade and finance. The finance part of it I will do in the later sessions. So you need to understand what international trade is, at the core of the area, and you can subdivide this international trade into 3 segments. One is export trade. These are not the big words, these are all very custom words for you all. Export trade. Then you get the import trade. Rather, export trading and import trading. And you get trade call, ENTREPOT, is pronounced as entrepot trade. Entrepot trade or entrepot trade. So we will be discussing this after 2 or 6 sessions from today. And before touching the international trade, that is comprising of import and export, we may have to check what domestic trade is. Right? What domestic trade is. Give me a second. I may have to drop a message to the administrator so my pens are not writing properly. Right. Domestic trade. Domestic trade happens with two parties who are domiciled in the same country. Domicile means residing or covering under the same legal entity of the same country. That is the both buyer and the seller. Now see, for any trade, there are default two parties, buyer and the seller, right? That goes without saying. So this domestic trade, those two guys, that is the seller and the buyer, both are residing in the same country. Right. So we'll try to figure out what domestic trade is, and then we'll make a slight pivot towards the international trade. Then we will understand the gravity of the trade that we are intending discussing. Say that you need to purchase something. You need to purchase something, that is to buy. And we say a pair of shoes. So you go to a shop, or a shoe shop, or a shopping mall, or whatever it is. You go to the shop, and with a predetermined factor that you need to buy a shoe. So there are plenty of things depending on the need. Of course, this might vary. So you might sometimes, being bankers, especially, might concern about the price. And the brand, the durability, and perhaps if you are young, the style. Likewise, you might have plenty of things in your mind before stepping into the shop. Right, we were discussing about this domestic trade and going to a shop to buy a pair of shoes with certain little desires. Right? The price, the durability, there's the style, so on. Now, I'm going to ask a small question. You may have to, interact with me on this, of course, at least for the few sessions. Once you get the hang of it, and once you get used to the space of mind, you should be able to grasp the subject well, right? So, if provided this technicalities and anything be facilitated to me in a peaceful manner, I should be able to give something for you all. Right. Now, once I go to this particular shop, and every point that I have pointed out here, from the price up to the durability, if everything been fulfilled after fitting on the shoes, of course, still I can dump the pair of shoes and go to the next shop without giving any explanation to the vendor. And for that matter, he shouldn't get offended. And I will keep on shopping. And if I think fit, I'll come to the same shop once again and buy the same stuff that I rejected on an earlier occasion. My question for you is, what is the right that I had just exercised? Right, give me a feedback. Just one word, one verb, that is. What is the right I have just exercised? Yes, come on. This happens only in domestic trade. Yes, I can see one answer being given as choice. Others also could see this sent by Jana. I'm not quite sure whether she's one of my students, previous students, the same Jana that I'm referring to, but there's a big name in there. Yes. Come on, right. So Jana, that's your right. So at least more than the correctness, you remember. is a choice. Choice is a human instinct that we love to have it, right? We love to have choice. We like to exercise the choice, right? Because of this choice, we tend to choose a lot of things. And even in trading, especially in domestic trading, we use this at the utmost high levels of degree, right? When the choice is taken away from you, now, when the choice is taken away from you, what comes behind it? Now I may have to take another example. Instead of the pair of shoes, I will take a vehicle. I'm going to import a vehicle through an auction. So, say there is in Japan, I'm in Sri Lanka. I wanted a Toyota Aqua. Toyota Aqua, a pearl white. Like that, all the features that you find in an Aqua, I'm not quite familiar with it, but then all features you find in Aqua, I will jot down in a soft query and send across to him for him to perform. Until such a vehicle is landed in Sri Lanka, I will correspond with the Japanese guy and verify the fate of my vehicle. I'm so anxious to see that. So it might take a little time to reach the vehicle from the time that I've ordered to get it done from Japan. At least 3 to 4 months from the time that I opened the LC. What the LC, the mechanism of the LC are going to study later is the letter of credit I'm referring to, which is a must document to import a vehicle. So until such time, now I have parted with the money also. I'm waiting until the vehicle comes. Unlike the comfort that I had when I bought the pair of shoes just before, I had the opportunity or the privilege of fitting on and make one or three sides of it, see whether there are shoe cuts and kind of thing. I can bend the shoe and sniff it whether it's genuine leather. I can ask from a friend of mine, you see this is a good shoe. Have you heard of this brand? That kind of comfort is not there because the Japanese guy sent through email saying that the vehicle is coming, don't worry, by next week it will be landing Hambantota port. You all should know all vehicles are, that is the passenger coaches are being landed or unloaded at the port of call Hambantota as a discharge point. So I'm not quite sure whether they have handled the vehicle properly. The exact color that I wanted, whether it's been there, I do not know. He may have sent pictures to me, all right. But then I do not know whether there are certain dents and bruises and kind of, unevenness in the body. I'm not quite sure. And first of all, I have not done a trial run even. Right? So therefore, I have a risk. I have a risk. I have a risk. Not I have a risk. I have plenty of risks. Why is that? The choice is not there. Choice be taken off almost completely. Why I said almost is, if I'm a moneyed guy, if I have a representative in Japan, in the close proximity of the yard in Japan of my friend, I can use him as giving a fee. I can use him and ask him to check the vehicle for me and then revert back. That's a costly affair. Otherwise, choice be taken off from me. It be stripped. So when the choice be taken off from you in the midst of trading, what being associated to you is risk. Risk. So when you have risks, you have to, not that you have to manage risk, you have to take calculated risk. You have to mitigate risk, and you should know how to address the risk to minimize your losses as far as possible. So I can ask him to get me an inspection certificate. Get me a certificate to read the odometer. Odometer means the mileage. I will appoint the authority. They will have to make a confirmation. Odometer reads on such a mileage or the kilometer range or whatever it is. And I can, get the chassis number verified. Right? So there are plenty of certifications I can do, but that will not, give me the same comfort as if that I go to a trader in here and drive the vehicle and see whether it's new. I like to see when you open the vehicle, I need to see that freshness, the fragrance. That kind of thing I cannot replace by a certificate or a document. But to some extent, I can mitigate the risk. Mitigate means minimize the risk factors. So what you need to understand in here, the firewall is the choice that you exercise in the utmost degree in the logistic trade, and you don't find a choice. If you find one that's very trivial, that is very small in international trade. So since you don't have choice, there are a lot of risks. When you have risk, you have to attack the risk. How do you attack the risk? You call for documents. So when you have documents, what happens? Then you are exposed to fraudulence. Documents could be forged. Documents could be manipulative. Documents could be duplicated. Documents may not be the originals that I wanted to have it. Right? So now to arrest that is difficult, utmost difficult. Like an individuals or to group of people. And therefore, we have a thing called a set of rules being placed to do international trade. Those rules are compulsory for you to know in time to come. That is why this international trade is complex. Because the document that is associated, you need to analyze what the documents are. You need to get into detail of the documents. You have to do the anatomy of the documents. Documents means a lot of things. So in a moment that we will discuss what the documents are, but in detail of the documents, time to come, until 6 months the course is finished, I will be telling about the documents. There are various types of documents you need to know. There are legal implications. There are different type of looking at it. And there are rules making uniform amongst the countries and manned by different legal entities. Right, now we'll rush. Rush means I'll speed up a little bit. The differences between domestic trade and international trade. Right? Some differences when I say, it might slightly, I will pitch high a little bit, but don't worry about it. You just listen as it is. The time to come, you will understand. I hope the board is clear now, right? Osharani Vikramasinghe commented that she can't see the board properly. If it's all right now, just make a comment so that I could, go ahead with it. Can see. Tirthan Silva, thank you. Right. We'll rush the international trade versus domestic trade. It should be the other way, domestic trade versus international trade. Right. In domestic trade, very easy. Now, these are not very difficult things to understand, but only thing you need to grasp it properly. Right? We have a lot of things to do. Domestic trade, both buyer and seller. Both buyer and seller reside in the same country. Resides in the same country. Resides in the same country. Right? As opposed to the international trade, buyer and seller are in two different countries. Right? Both buyer and seller, that is both parties, are governed by same legal entity. Same legal entity. But in international trade, you have different set of laws. If I'm importing a vehicle from Japan, Japan has a Japanese law, and Sri Lanka has English law. Right? Remember, we are governed by English and Roman Dutch law, and common laws applies. Mainly, the English law is the main law of us. So, we are governed by, in other words, by English law. So, if the domestic trade takes place within Sri Lanka itself, then English law applies. Otherwise, there are two sets of laws. So you need to understand the legal implications of the two countries' laws as well if you are intent doing trade. Right. In domestic trade, you deal in one currency. You deal in one currency, right? And that currency is the legacy currency of the country. Legacy currency. So we deal in LKR. But in international trade, you deal with multiple currencies. Right. Ocean, you have made a comment. Okay, fine. As far as possible, I'll try to apply a little bit of pressure, pen pressure, so that you will see properly. My fist is not very good, but then if you think that I should be more legible or writing, please make a comment. I will do that process as well. Right. And one more thing in international trade, this is the thing that you will not understand. When you deal in multiple currencies, you tend to have some risks that you don't normally see day-to-day life. That risk called the exchange risk, right? Not only the exchange risk, there are plenty of risks. So in whole, you call that risk as forex exposures. Forex exposures. Forex exposures. That kind of exposures you don't find in domestic trade. The other thing is documentation. Documentation is very complex in case of international trade. Documentation, docs, complex, very complex, right? Documentation is very complex in national trade, and in domestic trade is very simpler, right? And what are the documents that you need for domestic trade we will discuss later, right? And once these complex documents will be very easy for you and become simpler once you study. But in the face of it, documentation, you hardly find in documentation in domestic trade. You go to a shop and buy a pair of shoes, and you just, part with your what? Purchasing power by way of a credit card or by way of cash. And for that to buy, the vendor will give you just a simple receipt. That's all. Those are very simple documents. You don't have, kind of legal validity embedded on those documents. but not in international trade. Right? Likewise, you get plenty of differences between domestic and international trade. So you need to search. You start to search from today onwards. You need to search in Google search. And from my handouts, for every topic that I discuss, don't search in the Google, because there are certain topics that when I discuss, it could be very unique or maybe amended according to the Sri Lankan government local authorities, especially to the Exchange Control Department Act and for the Import-Export Control Department regulations. So therefore, when you Google search, you might have a little bit of misconception. But when I say to you to Google search, so that is universal. So you can Google search and enhance your knowledge and get the differences. You can read my handouts and get the listing, and you are going to do a small exercise, right? Every end of the session, I will give a small questionnaire to you. It's not an assignment, just a small questionnaire. And I'm giving the answers as well. Ultimately, what this exercise is behind here, the administrations are asking from us is to pass you all, not to make a legible set of students to work in the trade finance department. So therefore, what matters is not to listen carefully and to hate me or to admire. You have to finally pen on to the utmost piece of the examine. So for that, you have to groom yourself how to present precisely, right? So therefore, from the first day itself, you need to get yourself groomed for that. If there are one or two old students in here, like Jana, they will understand what I'm trying to say. So drop an email, and question is this, take it down. What are the differences? What are the differences? What are the differences between domestic trade and international trade? What are the differences between domestic trade and international trade? And drop an email to me. One of my handouts will carry my email address. Nevertheless, this is my email, Bernard, B-E-R-N-A-R-D, Bernard, 59 Galaxy at gmail.com. Now, don't wait till the last moment and try to compile the answer and send it across to me. And on the first day itself, you need to remember, when you are writing answers, don't write it in thesis manner or in paragraph manner, right? You calculate yourself to write in bullet form, or you call it in point form. You can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or you can just make bullets, right, in bullet form. Because you will get, for every question that you get a mark allocation. So if you get 4 marks for a particular question, that means you are supposed to write 4 bullets. If you write 5 bullets, you get 4 marks. If you write 3 correct answers, you get 3 marks. But if you write all 4 correct answers in one paragraph, sometimes examiner might think it's 1 point, or he will not bother to check too much. So therefore, write in bullet form, so that will be less constraint to the examiners as well, right? I'm telling you once again, yes, true that I will part my subject knowledge laws as well, right? You will be slightly knowledgeable laws at the end of the day, but the main objective is to pass the exam, right? So let us talk facts, right? The main objective is to pass the exam. I don't know whether anybody of in here, there are about 39 people, when you exclude the officials are also listening now, except for those guys, maybe about 30 people are logged in now. I'm not quite sure I doubt if there's any single person even working in trade finance. So your main objective is due to pressure of the employer to pass somehow the score to be subject. So therefore, get yourself with calculate today itself to write in point form. I'm not going to check your grammar, not the tense, not the spelling mistakes or whatever it is. Just make a point of it. And if so necessary only, I will correct and send you across. So I will find my time to correct everyone's answers and give a feedback. Right. So Bernard59, tell us at gmail.com. And the question is the differences between domestic trade and international trade. I need a one small feedback also as well, since you are listening for the first time, except for one person only I can see of one of my old students. If you feel that that you are unable to understand what I am saying, or if you feel because due to my pronunciation, the way that I'm putting across is not very clear, or in short that I'm bit of fast that I'm saying things, because I don't have a true habit of making dictations unless it's very vital. And if you think that I need to give a little bit of a I need to talk in a little bit of possible manner, please do write it, right? So I can adjust myself and go on, but then definitely I will catch you up in the next 2 sessions, right? You have to keep pace with me, right? I need that feedback from you all anyway. Thank you very much, Shan. That's a very commendable comment that you made. We are comfortable with the lecture. Yes, you might, because it's the first session, but you are going to make yourself bend it or regret for the comment that you made once I go on, right? Anyway, Shan, I will make a tag on you. Keep me on feeding, right? All clear, sir. That is Samuel Nipunika. Thank you. Right. So we'll discuss about the advantages. Now, advantage is not a topic, right? Advantages means you have to have an advantage to trade. It's a bit of a selfish idea. In other words, it's less sufficient idea, right? Now, that is advantages in the sense, depending on the labor output or the opportunity cost, one country cannot be a self-sufficient country, right? Solely on his own. So he may have to import or export of his excess and import, and you do a barter exchange to the things that they produce and get the things that he wanted, and that kind of trade has to be happen. So that could be happen only a country has an advantage, and depending on the size of the country, depending on the powerfulness of the country, depending on the liquidity that you do have. That's what you think outwardly, right? So we take 2 countries like that, the same country that I have given in the handout to you, China. I'm not talking about today's context of China, right? I'm just taking a country, China and Canada. The reason why I said this is because none of you all are school children in here. All are professionals. Maybe at least 1 or 2 people are not working all right, but then at least they must be, doing post studies or whatever it is. So you must be knowing better than me what China is about now and what Canada is about now geographically, economically. I'm not talking about that. I just took 2 countries starting with the capital C, right? Now, I get resistance from my own handout. This I have taken this particular grid or the small note that I have given to you all. I took it from a textbook, right? So I have taken United Kingdom and Canada here. So I will take China and what do you call Canada here. We'll say wheat hours to produce 1 ton. Cars hours to produce 1 car, right? Right. To produce a ton of wheat, Canada takes 200 hours. We assume Canada takes 200 hours. They consume 200 hours. Then China will take 300 hours. To produce 1 car, China will take 150 hours. And the Canada will take 250 hours. Right, look carefully. I took just 2 countries, China and Canada, and I took 2 commodities, that is wheat and cars. Now what's the assumption? I have 2 countries only, and there are only 2 commodities only. Right? I don't know what happened to the rest of the countries, the planet, and rest of the commodities. Sahana, she says, she or he says, the way that I'm talking is all right, but only she wants me to, the font size of the letters. I'll do that. Thank you. Right. So wheat hours to produce 1 ton, car hours to produce one car. I have taken China and Canada, 300 hours and 200 hours, 150 and 250 hours. Now look at the grid carefully. The thing that I have written here. I'll put the same thing so that you can, if you have taken a hard copy, you can look at the hard copy also, so that you will not make a confusion. So instead of China, I will replace that by UK. Right. Now you can fall in line with the handout that I have given. I'm just making an expression only. Not to mention, Sana, don't worry, if there's any comment like that, please do so that I can, at least at the last session, by time the last session approaches, I'll be a little bit of nearing to the perfection, right? So please do make a comment, right? Now, UK has, right, weighting high, UK has an absolute advantage. Now, that's a new word, right? I'm just slipping away now. UK has an absolute advantage of making cars over Canada. You understood that? UK has absolute advantage. Absolute advantage. Now, this advantage means there are 2 types of advantage. One is the absolute advantage. The other one we are going to discuss. So, UK has an absolute advantage to produce cars because they consume only 150 hours. Canada takes to produce the same car. That's another assumption. Now we are talking about the same model and the same type of car, right? Canada produces or consumes rather 250 cars. Right. Then conversely, Canada has the absolute advantage of producing 1 ton of wheat, whereas UK has a disadvantage over Canada in making or rather producing wheat. Now you see, the Canadian experts will see why we are wasting so much of time by making cars. UK will see why are putting ourselves sweat a lot to produce 1 ton of wheat. Might as well import from Canada. And we'll save the time that we produce the cars, rather to produce the wheat to make cars. So same thinking, vice versa, will be taught by the Canadian guys as well. Why do you want to waste our time of 250 hours of making a car? Is stupid. So we'll pump this 250 here. Then we will have 450 hours. 450 hours. So when you have 450 hours, how much of times you can make it? We'll make a quick division. $2.25 tons. Now see, they consume 1 ton to produce. To produce 1 ton, they took 200 hours. Now they stopped producing cars. That time they saved and put into the wheat guy. So wheat guy took that 250 with that 200, that is 450 hours. Then he saw, that is 450 divided by 200. Then he saw he can make 2.25 tons of wheat. 2.25 tons of wheat. So now they can, you know what they can do? They can import 1 car. They can import 1 car. Right? They can import 1 car and they have 2.25 tons of wheat they can export. They can export. Right? We'll take the other one. If you have a little bit of a gray area here, you should be able to eliminate from the other one now when I repeat. So when I'm repeating, I will see a little bit of a differences that I can simplify so that you could grasp it properly. Then you apply for both together at home as a little bit of a linear thing. You have to need a small piece of paper and take it out and see what the heck that I have written in here. It's a win-win situation when you have an absolute advantage for a particular commodity. But when you have 2 commodities, both countries will benefit in either way, provided you sacrifice the production of 1 commodity and import that. Right. Now, UK having 300 hours wasted to produce 1 ton of wheat. They have absolute advantage of making cars. They are taking only 150. So what they will do is, they will pump this 300 in here. So they also have, they will have 450 hours. 450 hours. Right? And what they will do, they will import 1 ton of wheat. They will import 1 ton of wheat. So with this 450 hours, how much of cars they can make? Divide by 300. Divide by 300. So that means how much? 450 divided by 300. To be 1 quart or what? We'll see. 450 divided by 300 is 1.5. Right? Now see, they have got a 1 ton of wheat plus in addition a 0.5 cars. In addition, 0.5 cars. Right? So that's the absolute advantage. But the crux of the thing is, what you need to remember is this absolute advantage, right, which was introduced by a famous marketing guru called Adam Smith, is based on labor input, based on labor, To make a production line, you have to have plenty of factors, right? So all the factors, the rest of the factors, I have put into constant, right? All all the factors I have put into constant. I have taken the labor only. So based on the labor, the absolute advantage could be discussed, right? No, Shani, it's not 3 cars. Just make. That's what I said. Take a small piece of paper. Now you had my voice also. Read the small note very carefully at leisure, and apply yourself and see you get it right. Don't worry. If there's a problem still, you make a text to me. I will explain again. Right. And there's another one. Another advantage, they call the comparative advantage. That is based on opportunity cost. Based on opportunity cost. Many of you all must be knowing what opportunity cost is. If you have forgotten what opportunity cost is, or anybody who has not heard of opportunity cost is, I'll give a small example, not a proper definition. This is not the accounting class, but then I will give a small example what the opportunity cost is, so that you can put into a good array of it. Say that you have 100,000 rupees in hand. What you do is, because you don't trust anybody, any financial institution, because of certain things that you have heard, and because of the manipulative factors you find, and mainly because of the inflation, you have decided to keep that money intact in a safe. So you have own shop at home, and you kept the 100,000. So after a couple of years' time, now you are in a bit of in my age now. So one of your reviews and teachers have come across this shop, and they found out this 1 lakh I have just deposited many years ago, decades ago. He says, "Uncle, why do you made this?" So I have the same expression to him. He will say, "In vain that you have done that. Had you had deposited this 100,000 rupees in a bank on a fixed deposit on a annual basis, you would have got some considerable amount of interest by now, right? And it would have got grown, not by 1 lakh, at least by 25,000. It has grown. At least the time that you want to take it now, you would have taken more than 100,000 that you had given at the time that you may have placed a deposit." Say that the interest that you have lost due to the fact that you are not deposited in a fixed deposit as per the usage is called the opportunity cost. It's not a realized book loss because I have kept the 100,000 and capital has not got eroded. I have got the same 100,000 after a couple of decades, right? So I don't have a realized loss in my books, but I have an opportunity cost. The opportune of that, the profit is lost. It's called the opportunity cost, right? So based on that factor is determining the comparative advantage. Comparative advantage. So when a country has a comparative advantage over another country, then the country has that is former country that's having an advantage will have to export. If a country has a disadvantage on a comparative advantage, or if a country has a comparative disadvantage over another country, that country should import. They should import, right? So why you are importing and why should not you import, right? That logic comes secondary. Why you have to import? Because you have a comparative disadvantage, right? Why you have to export? Because you have a comparative advantage, right? So read my handout properly, and you have a little bit of a complex grid than the absolute grid, absolute advantage grid in the overleaf of the same handout. I have taken the same countries and the same commodities and given the hours differently so that you can get a rough idea. In this particular grid, Canada has the absolute advantage on both commodities over United Kingdom. Canada has the absolute advantage over both commodities, that is on both commodities over United Kingdom. Still, United Kingdom making a win-win situation because of the opportunity cost. So get yourself explained after reading out and do a little bit of a what you call sketch work and see whether you can graph the handout. Right. One more thing. Did I tell you that you have to be regular a little bit? Yes, you have to be regular as far as possible, right? I know that you have commitments, and mainly because of this online thing, there could be that exact thing happening to my nieces and nephews as well. This because of the study packs, they log in after 45 minutes or 1 hour's time. They don't log in at all. So that kind of things are there, all right. But then make sure that you are hearing or listening or preparing or trying to attempt to do the most difficult subject in the syllabus. And therefore, my appeal is to, as far as possible, be regular. Just collecting handouts, you can't just pass this exam. You can try on other subjects, but definitely not to trade. Right? It's a testimony from my own students as well. So make sure that you, as far as possible, right? To make it self-regular. If you have a little bit of a gray area, make it a point to interrupt me, or make it a point to at least text me and put a nudge on the chat. Or you can come online, right? And also there's one more thing. Have a habit of keeping a logbook or some kind of a notebook near you when you're coming for the sessions. And also from next session onwards, you have to have a small calculator with you. If you have a smartphone or kind of a good phone, the calculator that you find in the phone is all right because you have a scientific calculator as well in there. But I recommend that you have to have a calculator, at least an FX100. FX100, right? If you do not have, doesn't matter because it's a bit expensive. I'm not quite sure about the price of the calculator. It's around 3,000, I think. Just another calculator, all right, but then get a good calculator. You need to have that calculator because we are testing for 5 decimal points, right? That is with regard to the forex area. Now we are touching on the methods of payment. I won't be able to finish the method of payment within the next 1 hour or so. It might take into 3 or 4 sessions, all right, but then that doesn't mean that I'm rushing, right? So we will do the methods of payment. We will start on the methods of payment, right? Right. Methods of payment. So there are basically 4 methods of payments. 4 methods of payments, right? Very common, very popular, and the whole world have embraced this methods of payment, right? These are for international trade, not for domestic trade, right? And we need to discuss the 4 methods of payment. But I am teaching you because it's in your syllabus. I have given you another additional method of payment called the consignment basis, right? So we'll have the consignment basis, which should come last actually. Then you get the open account. You're taking down with me, right? Then you get the advance payment. Advance payment. Documentary collection. Documentary collection. Documentary credits. So these are the 4 methods of payment plus this. Open account trading, you need to know this in by heart, right? Open account trading, advance payment, document collection, document credits. Open account trading, advance payment. Other side of the coin of the open account trading. Document collection, complex. Document credits, very, very complex. Right. We'll take you get this paper kiosk where you find this the journals, and you know the boutiques you find, the small boutiques you find the sellers of journals, and especially the daily newspapers. Those guys, the small kiosks or the boutiques or the petty kade you find on top of the road sometimes. Right, I'm taking a guy like that. Right. We'll assume this particular kiosk as he's a seller, just a seller of the daily mirror paper, DM paper, daily mirror paper. So early morning, the Vijay newspapers, that the manufacturer of this particular paper, will go on delivery vehicles and drop a bundle to him early morning. That bundle will have what? 200 DMs, depending on the area that he's covering. 200 numbers. Right? So this will be sold by in 2 ways. By order, there are certain listeners, they will booked in what you call before, and get the paper delivered by the seller to his to their households, or a bypasser who sees the paper will purchase it. Right. So he sells about 180 papers. this paper is worthless for the following day. Unless this particular paper has some kind of a business element or some kind of article, it could be worth that is what you call too much of a loss to lose. People might buy. If I bought, I think I have written to Vijay newspapers and got some old papers for that matter to get some articles that I have missed, right? But then again, other than that, we have started talking about the newspapers. The news is valid only for that moment only. Right. So he has sold 180 papers. You can't definitely sell the paper tomorrow, dated previous day. Right? So 20 papers left. 20 papers left. For these 200 numbers, he has not paid the Vijay newspapers. Vijay newspapers will come again on the following day morning and give another 200 papers and take the 20 papers that you have left out without sitting on the previous day and charge him only for 180. So what is this all about is, he will pay this, what you call the distributor only after selling it. Only after selling it. This bundle, I'm using that word bundle, is a very common word you could understand. Now I'm using a big word for that. Consignment. Consignment. Right? Consignment. Now we are not talking about bundles. Parcel become, a lot of parcels becomes a bundle. A lot of bundles becomes a crate. A lot of crates become a consignment. Right. So there's a consignment now. From a person called A, from country Japan. So that's a importer who gets this consignment. I didn't use the word buy there. Get this consignment. The person is B. He's in Sri Lanka, and he will distribute amongst the wholesale dealers in the country. So we will say dealer 1, dealer 2, dealer 3, like that. So this dealer will give the sellers, like the kiosk guy. So once the seller sells, and what is not being sold will be returned to the dealer 1. Dealer 1 collects it and return the unsold ones to the main guy, that is B. Main guy, depending on the contract, if the A wants unsold one, he will return. Otherwise, he will reimburse only for the product that you have sold. In other words, what has to be emphasized is not that. What the consignment basis means, A gets the money after the distributor has sold. That's what you call consignment basis. Right? So there is nothing much to talk about that, too, right? So I will read that. Nevertheless, take it on consignment basis. Consignment basis. Right. Say, consignment in international trade, take it down. Consignment in international trade is a variation of the is the variation of the open account method of payment. Open account method of payment, in which payment is sent to the exporter, only after the goods have been sold by the foreign distributor. To the end customer, that is A. Who is the foreign distributor? B. Right? So you read once that and try to figure out on your own self. Always have a little bit of practice of making a sketch of do a scribble of a diagram. Then you will understand, right? Open account. For further study, I will get you another set of notes with regard to open account and advance payment by preparing a grid, right? By next session, before next session, I will give that. In the meantime, we'll study what open account is. Open account is that there are two parties, right? That's the buyer and the seller. Buyer and the seller. So they have a contract. Buyer and the seller has a contract. That's called the contract of sale. For any trade, whether it's domestic trade or in international trade, mainly, you have a contract. That is why you are engaged in business now, because you have an advantage or you have a disadvantage, so therefore you have to make a contract through negotiation. So that contract is called the sales agreement or the contract of sale. Contract of sale. The contract of sale has to be properly, very carefully drafted in case of engaging in international trade. If the contract of sale has everything under the sun, which relates to the transaction that we're talking of. That is the price, right? And the price and the commodity that you intend dealing with, and the per unit price. Then what is? If there's a breach of contract, how do you decide on that? What is the profit and loss sharing ratio? So every kind of thing being properly drafted by a set of learned people, and sales contract will exist. That is the type of contract that I'm talking of, right? Not just a telephone call. So they have a contract in between them, bound. That's the most important contract. So they have settled down in the sales agreement that the method of payment would be open account in this instance. Right. Open account, now listen carefully, given here. Everything what I utter here, I have not paid on in the handout. As I said that when preparing the handouts, you need to remember, doesn't matter I'm revealing that, I have to be more careful. And therefore, I have taken a lot of excerpts from the textbooks. Only very few paragraphs here and there, so that I will not, they will not challenge me for patent rights or some kind of copyrights, that I have included my few paragraphs here and there. Other than that, it's been taken from the textbooks, but I have simplified. So therefore, everything that I'm explaining, not in the handout, right? So even though it sometimes is boring or doesn't go to years, and and especially if you are not in hands-on training in the bank environment, if you're not doing the subject, then you might feel a little bit of difficult to understand on certain aspects. But still for us, still there could be at least one or two sessions interesting to you all, right? So buyer and seller has an agreement now. That's called a sales agreement or the sales contract of sale. Now the open account exists. I want to tell you that open account exists when the buyer is very strong than the seller. Buyer is a macho man. That's not like that. Buyer strong means his country is strong. His country is strong. Why do you say the country is strong? Geographic situation, the superpower? No. That is, his country's central bank is very independent. Therefore, the people who are transacting big businesses under the central bank of such nature will be strong people. Example, RBI. RBI is the Central Bank of India. Reserve Bank of India is the Central Bank of India. The highly independent entity. They are reporting the foreign ministry, for what you call the finance ministry. So even though their exporters are very minute compared to huge importers in here, because of the RBI's backing, they have become big, right? So that depends on buyer, how strong the buyer is. If the buyer can find the abundance of sellers, that means the buyer is strong. I don't know, I'm not caring about you. If you can't give me the price that I wanted, who cares? I will get another buyer, another seller from you, from your own vicinity. So that's the dictating term that I have, because I am strong. Then open account exists. Remember again, open account exists when the buyer is able to find in abundance, that is plenty, of sellers. Right? We have now certain guys in here, I can't mention names, but we have very strong buyers in Sri Lanka. Right. Then only this open account exists. Now the essence of the open account is you have to click your mind straight away. Right. This where the buyer is stronger than the seller. Right. One thing you need to remember, which I did a small miss of mentioning, that unless now you can have an input on that, unless you are doing domestic trade. In domestic trade, you have only one performance. You means the seller has only one performance. No sooner the price is paid, he has to part with his physical position. I was trying to buy the pair of shoes, no. So the seller was having that pair of shoes in his possession. The physical position was with him. So I went and offered money and bought the pair of shoes. The only performance that I'm expecting from the vendor is to give that shoe to me. So he has to part the physical portion of the goods. That's the only performance that I'm expecting from him. After paying money, if he says, I'm slightly short of this particular shoe, I will get you by next week. So that is not performance. Right? So and the least thing that I'm expecting from him to perform, that performance is to part with the portion of the goods, physical portion of the goods. That's the only performance that we are talking about domestic trade. So you can have another point for that, my question. Any latecomers have logged in. I have given a question for you all, the difference between domestic trade and international trade, and I wanted you all to drop an email to me. Right? At least find 8 or 9 points. Right. I have given already 5 or 6 points, right? But in international trade, the seller or the exporter, there are different names, right? Exporter, seller, principal, beneficiary. Depending on the seniority of the method of payment, those guys are being identified in different names. That is why the subject is complex. Not because of the content or the what you call the magnitude of the subject. No, because of this vocabulary and because of this mainly on terminology. That is why the subject is difficult. Right. So in international trade, seller has to perform not in one way, but in two ways. In two ways, right? That is, now I need to freeze a little bit the open account. So I will shift to another important section and come back to open account. If time flies, of course, I will continue, but don't worry, I will take about 15 minutes to explain. Because I got stuck now in open account trading because I can't explain because I have not explained the document part of it, right? In international trade, there are three vital documents. Now we are not talking about method of payment, right? We are talking about documentation. In international trade, we need to have three vital documents. Vital documents, important, paramount important, must, right? There are three main documents being associated in international trade. With these three documents being ready, only you see the trade is moving, right? What are those documents? Commercial documents. Commercial document. Then there will be the transport document. Then there will be the insurance policy or the certificate. Commercial document, transport documents, and insurance policy or certificates. Right. So we'll do a little bit of a detail about these three documents in the next section before coming to the next method of payment. So I will just rush this and try to finish at least one method of payment so that there will be some kind of essence for you all to study and come before the next session. Right. So we need to have the document. Commercial documents, you don't have any kind of a characteristic of a financial instrument called commercial documents. I'm rushing, don't bother. Transport documents. Now these type of documents you don't find when you try to buy a pair of shoes, they will not give you a transport document, no. Right? You find only international trade, transport document. Then you get the insurance policy. Some kind of an eventuality happen during the voyage. Right, during the voyage, you should be able to redress that in case of an eventuality. Insurance policy or a certificate. Right? They are two different in nature. Either you can call for a policy or a certificate. That I'll explain later. So these are the three documents that you need. By heart again, commercial, TD, that is transport document, then the IP, insurance policy. When you put these three documents together, they are called what? Documents. They are called documents. So hereinafter, if I mention anything which related to documents in trade, that means commercial documents plus transport documents plus insurance policy or certificate. Right? So we are going to do a little bit of detail what the commercial documents, examples for commercial documents, what the transport documents, how they behave as transport documents, but that will be detailed in a later. But in the short form, what the transport document is, that is title bearing, and with regard to insurance policy, we will be discussing on next Sunday. Next Sunday, before coming to the advance payment. Now you know what documents are. If I mention about the documents, then you will understand what the document that this fellow is talking of, right? So, unlike in domestic trade, in case of the international trade, the seller has to perform in two ways. Remember again, I'm repeating, two ways. I can see one student has made a point here. I hope that I am pronouncing his name properly. You go as Aniston Anton. If it's so, the legal document will include you in the said document. Said yes, my child. Legal document, yes, yes, yes. All three are legal documents. All three are legal documents, right? And can be carefully perused. You should be conforming to certain publications that we are studying. And fortunately, that particular study is in your syllabus, so you have a wide spectrum of knowledge at the end of the session, at the end of the course, right? It's a legal document. I'm not quite sure whether I answered that particular question and then from you. They are legal documents, yes, legal document. The main legal document of the particular document that I have listed is carries in the transport document. The transport document. I'll explain why in the next session. And then are you all right on that? Give me a quick nudge so that I could move to the open account. Yes, thank you. Right. Shall I make a small guess, Anton? Are you in international trade, working for trade finance division, or at least some debt services department related? Just say yes or no. Not a bad guess, right? Fine. So, and then you are going to assist me from here onwards, right? If I get stuck a little bit, make sure that you make a little bit of a grooving for me to make a pay, so that I will put into myself good there. Right? Because of that question, I knew that you from the division that I am accustomed, right? So I have a slight comfort student logged in today, right? So the buyer seller has two ways of performing, right? You're sick of listening to that. Remember, there are two ways of performing in case of the seller, right? One, he has to part with the goods, like the shoe guy, right? He has to part with the goods. The physical portion of the goods has to be parted with the seller. Other performance is a bit difficult to understand, but when you go like that, as it is, because of the sake of saying, just understand. That is, you have to part with the constructive control of the goods. Take it down if you do not, it's a bit tongue twisting. It's constructive control of the goods. If it is so compelled for me to write, it's like this. Constructive control of the goods. That kind of jargon you don't find in domestic. You don't have a constructive control of the goods, no. Constructive control of the goods. What is that? Like Anton suggested, it is the title. Constructive control of the goods. Right? So I'm going to take it down as it is. But the two way of performing, you have to part simultaneously. You have to part with the physical portion of the goods. You have to part with the constructive control of the goods also as well. And after that, he has to look up and wait. And he is on the buyer's mercy. Buyer is not going to pay him beforehand. Buyer will tell, you send me the goods. You send me the control of the goods, or I will not understand. So he will say, you send me the goods, you send me the documents. In that documents you find this particular constructive control of the goods factor. After that, when he thinks fit only, he will repatriate the monies. Right? Understood? So the seller has to sell the goods. Seller has to sell the goods. Remember, such goods has to be consigned. Remember once again, students, I'm not quite sure to what extent, Anton, you're in trade, but including yourself also as well. Remember, I think I told you this, one aspect of this particular subject is become difficult for you and me is because of this terminology. There are a few words that I may use, compare to use, because of the nature of the subject. But as far as possible, I try to explain. So, but those words are very essential when you're constructing answers. When the examiner is chasing those words. So when the seller says or dispatch the goods to the buyer, such goods has to be consigned to buyer. Consigned to buyer. Get the spelling right? CONSIGNED. Right? Consigned to buyer. All rights being transferred. All rights being transferred. Right? So seller has to send the goods to the buyer, not to his doorstep, to the buyer's country. Right? To the buyer's country. And the documents that I said, the physical constructive control of the goods, that the documents has to be dispatched to the buyer. What I am discussing now, open account trading. Seller has to send the goods to the buyer's country, that is to the port, right? And the documents have to be sent across to the buyer. These documents also has to be consigned to buyer. So both goods and documents have to be consigned to buyer in case of open account trading. Now that is the vital thing, right? You can't just say, then you are getting a mark, all right, but you are not getting full mark. You can say you are sending the documents to the buyer, you can send the documents to the goods to the buyer. Fine, it's right, it's not wrong. But you are getting 1 mark. But if you are saying both documents and goods have to be consigned to buyer and then dispatched, you are getting at least 1.5 marks. Right. Now the buyer has the documents. Now the buyer has the documents. Right. So once I explain this mechanism, after getting the document, what the buyer will do with the documents up to the clearing procedure. So that aspect will be right for rest of payment also as well. So listen to this very carefully. If I see some kind of flabbergasting messages coming in, I will explain once again. Otherwise, this explanation will be standing there. Right. So I have got my time. Only now we started. So I have half an hour. That will be more than enough for me to explain what the buyer will do afterwards. Right. So buyer has got the documents. Shall I send the documents across to? Buyer has got the documents now. These documents, I told you that in the documents you have the commercial documents, then the transport documents. Right. So, example for the transport document is the bill of lading. There are other transport documents also we'll discuss later. If this is a sea freight, the mode of shipment is by sea, then the transport document that we are calling is a bill of lading. Bill of lading. So he will take the bill of lading. Shortened form of bill of lading is written as BL. So he will take the bill of lading. One of the original bill of lading, usually in the set of documents, you get 3 bills of lading as originals. You can have 4 bill of lading or 1 bill of lading as originals. In the bill of lading, there's a provision saying how much of bill of lading being issued. It could be any number. Mainly you find 3 copies. Copies means 3 originals, right? So there's a little bit of, bit of contrary what you use in English in normal usage and trade. In normal usage, copies means 3 copies of bills of lading means copies, so photostat copies. But in trade, 3 copies of BS means 3 originals. Right. So he takes 1 original. 1 original. Out of 3 originals, he has 3 originals, he will take 1 original. and goes to the shipping agent. Shipping agent, the local shipping agent, right? And he will surrender the bill of lading. Surrender. What he had in possession, right? He surrenders to the shipping agent. Now, why I use the word surrender here? The bill of lading carries the title of the goods. Bill of lading has the title of the goods. So, title being given means you are surrendering the title to him now. Who is him? The shipping agent. Then the shipping agent will give back a very vital document called a DO. A DO. That stands for delivery order. Delivery order. Now he doesn't have a bill of lading. He does have two bills of lading in his hand. He gave one original to the shipping agent, and in lieu of the bill of lading, the shipping agent has given him the delivery order. One thing that I need to mention now, if you have two, that is more than one originals of a birth certificate or any document that you have in your experience, say that you have a birth certificate, you have two birth certificates at home. One is the original birth certificate BC, and an extract of a or the extract of a original birth BC certified, right? So that is as good as the original birth certificate. So for some reason that you want to go abroad, you have to give the birth certificate. So you surrender the birth certificate. You don't say you surrender. You have given the birth certificate because they wanted it, and simultaneously, the Indian Revenue Department has got to know that you are flying abroad, and they are chasing you for some kind of a tax due. And for that matter, you have to submit the birth certificate to the Indian Revenue Department also as well, because the visa guys are not issuing the visas because of the tax clearance certificate is not being submitted. For them to issue the tax clearance certificate, you have to submit the birth certificate also as well, along with the marriage certificate if you are married. So you have one birth certificate in your closet, kept in your file. You take the birth certificate in there, fair enough. And if you want another birth certificate to be submitted, you have another copy, maybe. But in case of bill of lading, it's not right. You had three originals. You have surrendered one. You have surrendered one original bill of lading to the shipping agent. No sooner that you surrender, the rest of the things be retained by you becomes invalid. That is coming from where? It's coming from the Bill of Lading Act. Of 1855. Bill of Lading Act says, one surrender, rest ceases. Rest becomes invalid. So, just because you surrender, that is why the shipping agent don't want one. Otherwise, they would have wanted the full set of it. They will want all the three originals. Because the shipping agent knows that if you surrender one, rest of the thing what you have, it becomes invalid. Right. Now, the importer or the buyer has the delivery order, I will say DO, and in these documents, he has a commercial documents. Commercial documents. One of the commercial documents is the commercial invoice. Commercial invoice. Commercial invoice. So he will have the commercial invoice. He should have two commercial invoices in other words. So he will take the delivery order and the commercial invoices to the customs. Customs, not customers, customs. Customs. and he will hand over the delivery or the commercial invoices that he has in hand to the customer. Then the customs will give the releasing order. Releasing order, meaning he is entitled to the goods, provided that he will pay the taxes, clearing charges, and import duty stipulated by the customs officials. Then he will get hold of the goods. Along with that, he will get another set of form by the custom. It's called the customs declaration form. Usually you call that as a CUSDIC. Customs declaration form. Customs declaration form. I hope that you are taking down, right? Customs declaration form. That is called the CUSDIC. CUSDIC. This CUSDIC will have a lot of salient features. 12 items need to be checked by a banker. But I will tell about 5 or 6 so that it will be useful for us. Right. This CUSDIC is dated. Date is very essential. Right. And it has a unique reference number. This will have the description of the goods. Description of the goods. This is of the goods. Amount, value of the goods. Value of the goods. Bank. Bank of the consignee. I use a different word now. Introduce a different term here. Consignee means the holder of the consignment, that is the importer. Consignee. The guy who has sent the goods across is called a consignor. The goods are called the consignment, and he's the consignee. Right. Now these are vital things. Right? You got a rough idea of the CUSDIC. Right. Now we are coming to the open account trading and see whether we are going, how we are going to mesh with this little knowledge we have. Now, I will refresh once again in open account. Open account exists when the buyer can find so many sellers. Seller has sent the documents across to the buyer. Goods are in the port. He has just got cleared now. Right? And he has got the CUSDIC with him. No payment. Right? Yes, that's a question now. Please explain who is the consignee is. Consignee is the person who is the holder of the goods. Holder of the goods. That is the buyer. Buyer. In face of the customs is the consignee. In other words, is the layman term of the consignee, the trade term, that is the normal trading word in the consignee is the importer. Importer, right? But he's the consignee. You understood the Sharangi, Samudi? sound mean? You understood that? Right. So in other words, the exporter is the consignor, ending with NOR. And what they are dealing with the consignment. So the consignor has the consignment to the consignee. Right. So buyer has got the consignment. He has become the consignee. Therefore, he got the consignment cleared from the shipping agent, from the from the customs. Before that, he went to the shipping agent and got the delivery order. Now he has the custody, copy of the custody. Copy of the custody has to be signed by the consignee, attested by the customs officials. Now, when the buyer has to, now this part you have to take it down. Otherwise, Anthony is going to check on me on this. The buyer has to come to his banker. That's why the bank's name is must in the rustic. To his banker. Within 365 days. Within 365 days. From the date of the custody, that is why the date of the custody is important. From the date of the custody. So within 365 days from the date of custody, he has to come to the bank and he has to request the banker of his to remit the proceeds or the value of the goods. Right? So when he comes to the bank, until such time the bank doesn't know, bank is not aware, goods have come, he has cleared the consignment also as well, bank is not aware. So when he comes to the bank, he has to come along with the commercial invoice. He has another commercial invoice he should have. He should have a commercial invoice. He should have the custody. He should have the custody. When he has the custody, bank will check the 12 points that I was talking of, which is not so important to us in here. And the bank will check. One aspect he will check whether the custody is signed by the importer and when he has cleared the consignment. And from there, the bank will calculate to see whether he is coming and making a request for the banker within 365 days. That is why searching in the Google with regard to open account trading is dangerous. This 365 part is not there in the Google. But in Sri Lanka, there's an imposition of law. Within 365 days, the buyer can make the payment. Now see the risk to the seller. Seller should know the law or the legal implications in Sri Lanka when he's dealing with. Because he knows when the documents are sent across and the goods are being sent, buyer will not pay immediately. He can sit and wait for 365 days from the date of clearance. Right? So that's what open account trading. So we'll discuss about the other side of the coin of the open account trading. When the seller becomes important, seller becomes stronger than the buyer, then the advance payment will come. That we will discuss on the next session. Right. So we'll put it in a nutshell here. You be the buyer, then you be the seller. Then in between them, they have the contract of sale. Contract of sale. Seller has sent the goods to the buyer's country, in other words, consigned to buyer, and the documents are being remitted to the buyer. Documents are remitted to the buyer. And such documents has to be consigned to the buyer. Then buyer will go to his banker. Before that, he will clear the consignment. You know the procedure of the clearance now. So this will be not discussed again unless it's been requested by a student in the next methods of payment. So here the costing and he will have a commercial invoice. So the bank will remit the monies to the seller, not to the seller actually, to the seller's bank. Seller's bank. That information is there in the commercial invoice. If it is not been indicated the disposal instructions, then the buyer has to provide that information to the bank. The remitting mode, how the bank will remit, by way of a SWIFT payment order. SWIFT payment order. SWIFT payment order. SWIFT payment order. The message type is MT103. Message type 103. We call it as MT103. It has to be a strictly MT103. There are only 2 payment orders in the SWIFT. There are 999 messages in the SWIFT. Out of that, you have only 2 payment orders. That is the 103 and the 202. 103 is the customer transfer, and the 202, the 202 is a bank transfer. You cannot use a bank transfer for open account trading and for advance, advance payment. You have to use only MT103, right? If the word SWIFT, that is SWIFT in capital characters, if somebody finds this an alien word, I will explain what the SWIFT is. SWIFT is a society for worldwide interbank financial telecommunication. Telecommunication. Society for worldwide, not international, it's interbank. There could be a MCQ question with regard to this, could be sometimes. Remember, a lot of students do a mistake of mentioning is international. It's not international, it's interbank, financial, telecommunication. So you can make financial payments by MT103 or by 10202. or you can send free formats or chat messages through telecommunication mode. So SWIFT is a reliance. You have to be a member of the SWIFT. Only the banks could engage, and it's a bank-to-bank information channel. So in open account, you have to make a SWIFT payment. SWIFT, not SWIFT, it's SWIFT. MT103. MT stands for message type. 103 is the SWIFT number. It's a customer transfer. Right. Now we'll wind the session for today. I have 4 minutes left. You can make any questions, suggestions. That will be useful for me to get myself what you call groove a bit for the next session. And I will wait, hang on with you all for another 5 minutes. And I'll appreciate that if you can, send me the answer for the question that I made. Question is the differences between the domestic trade and international trade, and write about 8 to 10 points and send across. Don't make a huge presentation on that. Just make a point form answer and send across to me to my email address. Email address is given in my handout. You can it's a Gmail account. That is Bernard59 Galaxy at gmail.com. Right. I can entertain any suggestions or any kind of thing that you need to tell. You can tell me with the visualization of the clearness of the board, my pronunciation, my voice traveling, the pace of talking, and the words that I'm using, mainly on pronunciation. Any suggestions you can make it, that will be fruitful for me. At least you can make a text on me. My mobile number is not 777 587 149. I may have jotted in the handout that I have given to you. 587 149. Right. So just tell me, Anton, in which bank you are working and in which department, and if you are in trade, for how long you are in trade. Just make a nudge quickly so that I'll be, not that I'm so sincere to you, Anton, but very hardly you find the students of mine that in trade. I find a lot of very rare. I find my own students in my own division sometimes. You are in the commercial, in the credit department, Anton. Oh, I see. You are in the commercial bank, in the credit department. I thought you are in the trade department. You must have heard us saying credit. Right. Gerald, you are back again. One of my old students appearing again, Gerald Anthony's. Nice to see you in here. It could be refreshment before the exam. It's very pathetic that your exams are getting postponed indefinitely. Very soon or later, they will inform you the dates. I will inform you also as well, Gerald and Jana. Okay then. I will see you in the next session, and have a good week, and make sure that you drop an email to my email address so that I will go through the answers and give a feedback to you. So I'll see you on next Sunday, hopefully. And so have a nice evening. Good afternoon to you all.